The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam, back after 10 days. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. 10 days is a while. Thank you to everyone for your patience as we took a little bit of extra time off for the holidays. Obviously, Merry Christmas to all those out there who celebrated. Hope you had a great one. I'm going to be honest, Mike, I'm pretty glad that we didn't have to record after the Christmas game a few days ago, and we got to wait until today. So we have seen the Suns remarkably win a basketball game since the last time we recorded. A good win last night against the Houston Rockets.
So 10 days off for us, including, I went out of town, so I didn't bring any of my recording equipment. This was always the plan to record today. 1-3 in those 10 days were the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to list to you all the things that I think have happened since in those 10 days, and then we'll try to recap just sort of how we feel on all of this. So 1-3 in 3 consecutive losses, including, I think, the most demoralizing loss of the season, which was against the 7-win Portland Trailblazers, which resulted in a Eric Gordon report that he wants more touches and wants to be more involved in the offense by Chris Haynes. I don't know if you could call that a report. It seems like it was just, he put exclusive in the report title, but it seemed like it was mostly from post-game comments.
Post-game comments, yeah. It was
maybe there was a little more off the record that we
exclusive
don't know about.
Aggregation is what I would call that report from Chris Haynes. But yes, that happened.
Bradley Beal, after that, also hinted that he might try to play on Christmas. He didn't. Before the Christmas Day game, there was a Christmas Day report by Woj that Kevin Durant was frustrated and the Suns needed to really figure things out, which was very Woj. I don't know. It just, like last year he reported about James Harden's interest in going back to the Houston Rockets in the middle of the season on Christmas Day as well. It seemed like this was his chance to try to drop a little bomb in the middle of a Christmas Day slate again. And then, of course, the Christmas Day game where Luka once again embarrassed the Phoenix Suns. He was incredible. And in a game where the Suns were essentially double teaming him or trying to force the ball out of his hands as much as possible, he still scored like 1,000 points.
Can I just say about that one real quick? In the spirit of Christmas and making peace offerings and whatever, one of the best individual performances I can remember seeing in a regular season game in quite some time. Honestly, the past few years, Luka is that dude. I hate to say it. I mean, honestly, I do.
You can't guard him. But he's unguardable.
Now that he's always had the step back three, but now that he's hitting that shot at close to 40%
in transition,
he's pretty scheme proof. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, they became a lot more dangerous in my eyes as an opponent.
Yeah, it's like that. He's starting to look like prime James Harden, which I think some people will probably try to use as an insult to him. But if people don't remember, James Harden was like an automatic 60-win team for a while there. If you just had him, you could put a bunch of guys who shoots threes around him, and then you win a ton of games. And that's what Luka looks like right now. After that embarrassing loss, KD responded to Woj's report on Instagram, sort of calling out anyone who thought he played uninspired on Christmas Day, which, by the way, he kind of did. But he was also upset, just sort of claiming that Woj heard it from no one. Just the classic player responding to a Woj response on Instagram. And then another game where Devin Booker finally ditched the headband. Probably the biggest news, I think. He's no longer wearing a headband. I don't know if you noticed that in the last game.
I noticed because 8 million of you tweeted about it. So.
Devin Booker and headband was probably tweeting for a while there. And then, of course, in Houston, the Phoenix Suns won, where Houston, before that game, was 12-3 at home. The best, I think, home record in the West so far this season. They're not good on the road, but they've been good at home all season. No Dillon Brooks, obviously no Bradley Beal still, but I think Kevin Durant had his best regular season game for the Phoenix Suns in that game, where he had a triple-double. His career high and assists and still got to 28, 29 points. I forget what he ended up with.
Yeah.
And then today we saw a report from Shams Charania saying that the Phoenix Suns weren't frustrated in the way that Woj implied, in that it wasn't like some kind of KD is secretly preparing to ask out kind of thing, which is the way that Woj kind of framed it, I think. And that they were just frustrated, normal type of frustrated after a losing streak. And he also said that Bradley Beal could be back as soon as this weekend, which he also mentioned Friday's game against Charlotte, which we do plan on doing on playback. So if anyone wants to watch that game with us on playback, you can. Or Sunday's game on New Year's Eve is another game that he mentioned that Bradley Beal could be back.
That one against the Orlando Magic, who are still good this season, although I do believe they're starting to slip in the standings. I'm not sure exactly where they are right now.
Did I miss anything? I'm sure I did.
There was a loss in there against Sacramento, wedged between Portland and
felt inevitable at the time,
Dallas. Right? Yeah. I mean, I was hoping ended up being a 15-point loss or a 14-point loss, and was one of those that you wanted to at least be closer than that. Yeah, they've struggled this week. They've had quite and I think a lot of us. You were very good. You were very courteous and polite, and I think you were mostly restrained yourself on Christmas Day. I cracked, and what a surprise of the two of us, which of us it would be to crack first. But there comes a time and a place where enough is enough, for certain people, and I think a lot of fans have started feeling that in the past week for the Suns in particular. They were struggling a little bit a few weeks ago. Bradley Beal got injured again after he came back for 4 minutes in that game against the Brooklyn Nets. That was particularly demoralizing. But then the recent stretch and some of the ways that they've been losing, their losses against teams like Portland and teams like Sacramento, and even in the games they've won, last week, if you go back to their last win before their one last night, the one against Washington, where it took them being down for 40 of those 48 minutes before they could even come back in that game and win. It just has not been an inspiring run for the Phoenix Suns, and it's no one person's fault. That's the most frustrating thing about it. It's I put up a Twitter poll recently where I was just what are you most disappointed in with this team so far? And listed some options out for people, and among them was the health. Obviously, there's the Bradley Beal factor, the role player performance. There's lots of guys who James Jones signed who have just not lived up to expectations. I talked about a lack of leadership, kind of the less than stellar play coming from our stars, I think you could call it at certain times. And people just responded being all of the above. They're just a little bit disappointed in coaching was in there too, of course. So just disappointed in everything. And after that Christmas game, we saw a lot of people, I think, react either with apathy or with anger. and that's where you started to see the calls for, is Frank Vogel going to be fired? Yeah. Which quieted a little bit by that win against Houston. And for the record, I still don't think a guy that you just signed to a 5-year contract is going to be fired anytime soon, but we'll see.
Well, the last podcast we recorded was called What's Wrong with the Phoenix Suns. And I posited that there's no chance that Frank Vogel would be fired until they've at least had some games with Bradley Beal. And if they looked bad in those games, then I could see it happening. But there was a point in the middle of that Portland game where I thought, you know what?
I mean,
it could happen.
The issue is there's no perfect coach that's just sitting out there and the idea of Frank Vogel hired, with the exception of Kevin Young, and that's an important exception, but every other coach on that Suns bench right now is Frank Vogel's guy. You can't just clear out the whole bench in December and implement a new system with an entirely new roster of coaches. It just doesn't work that way. That doesn't mean you don't have the right to be angry at Frank Vogel for certain things this season, but it's not going to happen.
Not to mention, if you are one that believes that the responsibilities of the coaches are divvied up in a way that means that Kevin Young is responsible for the offense, well, guess what? It's been bad. The offense has been really bad.
Yesterday was their
If they get rid of everyone and put Kevin Young in charge, I'm not entirely sure that you could look at it and say that that's the proper solution for this either. If you believe that, we have never gotten confirmation on that. The only thing that we've gotten is from Frank Vogel's introductory press conference when he was asked about Kevin Young he implied that it seemed like the plan was for Kevin Young to be in charge of the offense a little bit. In charge, I would say in quotes. I think he used different words there. But yeah, I want to read to you this. I think it's funny. Last year, around this time, the titles of the podcasts, the 3 podcasts around this time of year.
Oh God, I don't want to know.
that we recorded, because I do find it. You mentioned that you had another classic meltdown on Twitter. I love when that happens. First of all, classic happens every year, at least once a year on Twitter for you. I do find the reactions to your tweets to be hilarious because there is 2 types of reactions generally. One, the people who have been listening to this podcast for a very long time. I think that's probably the majority of the people reacting to you, that either 1, agree with you, or 2, find it entertaining for you to go insane. Or there's 2, the other reaction is people who just don't know you at all, that are sort of new followers that think you're insane for a different reason, which I also find hilarious. Like I think a lot of the KD fans are like, they don't know that this is fun and we're having fun here.
Well, the KD fans is a whole different class of people, and I'm not gonna get into them today. But I think you have to embrace the mania. First of all, we're all fans here. We're all fans. Yeah. And what's so frustrating about something like the Dallas performance on Christmas is we were just asking as fans for effort from the team at a certain point. It's not even so much talent related. It's not even so much scheme related. It's not even so much health related. At a certain point, it was just, why is no one playing like they give a shit? And that's kind of what induced my rage in particular. And I do think a lot of people actually attach themselves with it. Now, of course, a lot of other people said I went too far and I was being too negative and yada, yada, whatever. That's like the classic, glass half empty, glass half full debate that happens within any fandom. But the idea that you can just like totally separate, if you're a fan, your analysis from your emotion in the heat of the moment is absurd. It's not going to happen. Maybe you can do that, Mike. Personally, I don't even think you could do that, but certainly I can't do it. And I'm not going to apologize for the fact that sometimes I crack. I'm just not going to.
I do think that there has been years and years of numbing that's happened to me in a way that allows me to not go insane, but it's not due to like a strong constitution or anything like that. It's just like this sort of numb feeling that I have at times.
The problem,
it's a sports thing. Everyone who's ever watched sports understands that feeling, and that happens to me as well.
The problem with this team right now is we're all in. In the past, when we won 19 games, it was like, all right, I sit down and I suffer for my 2.5 hours, and we lose another game, and I think about next year's the lottery in the upcoming May.
Yes. The weight of expectations.
We are all in. We do not own our own first round pick until 2030 or maybe 2031. I can't even remember. So if this doesn't work, if at any point you lose total faith in this team's ability to turn it around and maybe win a championship, it's over, guys. Like, we'll still be doing the podcast, I guess. Like, we'll still be suffering for the next 7 years. We'll be here. We won't tune out. You can still hang out with us on playback in 2028 if you want. But if this doesn't work, we're in for like a pretty dark period. So we need to be pretty sure that we can make this work. And I'm clinging on to that faith. But sometimes when they have a game like they did on Christmas, it fades. I'm sorry. It just fades.
Here's the podcast titles. I'm going to read 4 of them to you and a little bit of the descriptions of these podcasts that were recorded last year around this time. December 20th, 2022. Here's a perspective-changing podcast title here. Emergency Podcast, The Robert Sarver Era is Over. So just about a year ago, we were recording about how the Suns are going to be purchased by Matt Ishbia. That's when it was announced, on December 20th, 2022. The next podcast we recorded, New Year's resolutions for Matt Ishbia. We're going to be doing New Year's resolutions for the Phoenix Suns later on in this podcast episode. Classic for us. The next episode, January 9th, 2023, The Sun Exploded. That's the title of the podcast, where the description says, the Suns are faced with an existential crisis about how to handle the rest of the season if they continue to play like they are. In that podcast, we posited the idea of tanking the rest of the season in order to have a chance at Victor Wembanyama.
Probably posited by me first, if I had to guess. I'm not sure.
And then the final podcast title, and this one I wasn't planning on reading, but I just saw it and I thought it was funny. January 15th it was called, and The description says, "Today is the day DeAndre Ayton can be traded."
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, we talked about titles of that then. And this is not to give any excuse to how they were playing right now, but this is all to say that the season is long and things like this do happen. And it's not to say that they're not playing pathetically at recently, because I do think if you're frustrated as a fan, if you're even thinking that a coach should be fired, I think those are all valid feelings at the very least. Now, solutions, I'm not sure I would call those all solutions, especially firing a coach in the middle of the season. I'm not sure that anyone on the bench is capable of doing any better at this point. Not to say that it won't happen. We have no idea what Matt Ishbia is going to be like going forward. But there are times every season, I think, where a meltdown is valid. And I think last year it happened around January 9th. This year it's happening around December 25th, unfortunately. And I really hope they play better. And
hopefully is the low point, as now we get set for Beal to come back in the next few days again. And, we just need to string together some momentum here. It shouldn't be too hard. Our next game is against the Charlotte Hornets. That would be another really depressing loss if they drop that one. So again, join us on playback for a cheery Friday night. I'm hoping they can string together a win streak for us there.
If it's a win, then we all experience it together. And if it's a depressing loss, then I think we'll need each other more than ever at that point. So yes, playback will be a good one for that one. The Rockets game, I know we're not talking about each of these games that we missed individually. The Rockets one, I think, deserves some conversation. I mentioned it. I think it's probably Kevin Durant's best game as a Phoenix Sun, at least in the regular season. I know he had some pretty good games in the playoffs last year. 27 points is what he ended up with. 10 rebounds, 16 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. And he had 15 assists, I think, before he got his second turnover. He ended up with 3 turnovers. So his turnovers were really down compared to what he's been doing lately, especially compared to the assists. Great game for him. Eric Gordon, a timely, amazing game for him. 10 for 15 shooting, 27 points. And then Grayson Allen continued to play well after what he did on Christmas, which I think was spectacular and beyond what we ever expected out of him, which was funny, by the way, because he's the Shamet replacement, and that's what Shamet did last year on Christmas. Just felt a little, I don't know.
It was funny. They actually brought up that graphic at one point while Grayson was cooking on Christmas of most threes all time in a single game on Christmas. And what did Grayson have? He had 8 or 9?
Yeah, I think he had 8.
Whatever he finished with. If he had 8, but Landry was in the list as having 1 less than whatever Grayson finished with, so he had, Landry would have had 7 threes last Christmas or something, which yes was very amusing to me. Grayson Allen is a hell of a lot better than Landry Shamet though, and it's not the last time you'll be hearing his name on this podcast. I'm going to bring him up later when we get to our resolutions.
Yeah, me too. He's just been so solid lately, and I think there are times where the team looks completely out of it mentally, and he's still out there scrapping and trying hard, and that's just how he plays. And then, Devin Booker, I think some people will point at it and say it's a bad game, and I think we can talk about his 3-point shooting a little bit later, because he was 1 for 6 and just hasn't been making threes lately, but he was 20.7 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and I think was pretty pivotal in this game as well. All of that's good, and it's important for the starters to play well, right? The fascinating thing about this game, I think, was what Vogel did. I think rotationally, who actually played and who played in important minutes in this game. Because off the bench, the main guys who played off the bench, they'll all go in order of minutes, which is really funny. Azubuike was first off the bench in minutes, partially because of foul trouble, I think, from Nurkic. Metu, Okogie, and Saben Lee.
Yeah.
And then I'm sorry, Nasir Little and then Saben Lee were the other guys who played. That's not an order of minutes, but those are the guys who played.
That's the new rotation.
Is it? I mean, it's interesting. The guys who did not play at all, Drew Eubanks, who's been awful. I just mean awful in the last stretch, and I have a stat for that I will read in a minute. Keita Bates-Diop and Jordan Goodwin. Jordan Goodwin's 3-pointers completely lost from him lately. Didn't play a single minute in this game, and then Keita Bates-Diop didn't play as well. Watanabe played 2 minutes, but really he didn't. Bol played 2 minutes, but really he didn't, right? These are guys who came in at the end. finally Bol gets minutes in a blowout by the Suns, right? And it's on the road, unfortunately. But yeah, I think this was the first time that it was a major shakeup for the bench for Frank Vogel, and I think it was really, really smart in this particular game, and I hope it continues.
A necessary upheaval. If you want me to talk any more about this, I have to burn one of my resolutions now. I know we're not there yet, but are we just there? If we're talking about the bench?
Let's save that,
okay.
and we can talk a little bit more about it. I do have one stat, and hopefully it doesn't spoil yours, just particularly about Eubanks not playing, because I do just want to point out, as much as people are frustrated across the board, I think every player, they're 4-9 in the last 13 games. So let's just start there. 4-9 in the last 13 games. If you take Houston out of it, obviously it looks even worse. 3-9 in the last 12. But in that stretch with Drew Eubanks on the floor,
I don't even want to know.
Can I guess? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, okay, minus 20. Is that
minus
what you were gonna
28.2 net rating with Eubanks on the floor, and just on the other end of that, plus 6.8 with Nurkic on. And Nurkic missed games, and I think that was an underrated aspect of, I think, the worst stretch of the season here for the Suns when Nurkic was gone, because just he adds so much more than what Drew Eubanks takes away from this team. And I think it's sort of a, I've been trying to really hammer it home, and this stat really does it for me, I think, just how negative Drew Eubanks has been for the team lately. And I looked forward to him, and I think he played.
So did I.
And he played much better last year, I think, and at the beginning of this season. And it's just completely cratered recently. And like I said, as much as you can be frustrated with Devin Booker, with Kevin Durant, and whoever you want to say, nobody is even close to what Drew Eubanks is in that stat, in that 4-9 stretch in the last 13 games. When he's on the floor, the Suns were absolutely sunk through that time. And if they can figure that out, and maybe that's just Azubuike, if they can figure that out, then I think that's actually really going to help the Suns in maybe an underrated way, because so much of the attention goes on to Kevin Durant's untimely turnovers, Devin Booker not being able to hit a jump shot lately. And valid, those two things matter a lot. But when everything tanks with Drew Eubanks on the floor, it almost doesn't matter. It's like everything tanks. That really sucks.
True. And I feel bad for him because, again, this is one of the guys, both of us, we were super excited. He was on my short list of free agents I wanted the Suns to target before they went out and got him. I was really excited when they got him because he's had better seasons than this recently. We felt as though this was a guy who would be one of the best backup bigs in the NBA for the Suns, and he just has not lived up to that name whatsoever. He started with the bad play, I think, several weeks ago, and now is just at the point where he's in his own head so much to where he's bobbling easy passes underneath the basket, and he's just turning it over at really inopportune times. And, there's one thing to be said, like if he's not impacting both ends as much as you'd like him to, he's never had the greatest touch. He's not the same connective offensive player that Nurkic is, but it's been such a streak of negative play for Eubanks now that I think his confidence is shot too. And I'm not really sure how he's going to be able to turn it around. I will say one thing to give him some credit. Maybe the best I've felt, the most joy I've felt as a Suns fan all season came last night when they were making a run at the end of the second quarter. Udoka Azubuike was going crazy. And one particular play, the Suns are already up 12-14. Azubuike has it underneath the basket. There's a double on him. He's got Şengün on him. Şengün's 60 pounds lighter than him, maybe more. He just does one two-handed dribble, shakes him off, finishes at the rim. It's an and one, goes over, celebrates with the entire bench. The entire bench is going nuts, including Drew Eubanks, the guy whose minutes have maybe been taken by Azubuike now, but he's still up there. He's still celebrating with the rest of his teammates. Then KD got going in that quarter, and just like we had seen a level of camaraderie and chemistry on the bench last night for the Suns that I think we haven't really been able to tap into all year long. Yeah, that if you're a Suns fan was just awesome to see, and Eubanks was right in the middle of that too, even if he wasn't playing.
He's a two-way player, Udoka. So he has to earn minutes on this team, and if they want him to play like the rest of if he becomes the backup center, for example, they have to make a roster spot for him. It's nice to see him playing well. It's clear, I think, that KD enjoys playing with him. A lot of those, I think, assists were related to his role gravity, which was, I think, what we expected. out of Eubanks. And that play that you're talking about was particularly good, I think, because in a situation where centers are doubled like that against the baseline, just being able to power through and not try to, if he passes out of that, it's probably a turnover.
Well, and
like
also,
a good 5 out of 10 times, and he still got the score out of it.
If he dribbles out of it, that's a really, really high turnover scenario for most centers. It's kind of remarkable that he was able to finish it, but he's so big. I mean, he's just so huge. Like, he's not. And the other thing I love about him, if we're just gushing about Azubuike right now, is he might be 290 pounds or whatever, but every possession last night, he ran the floor hard. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the first guy down, but that's where a lot of that rim and roll gravity is going to come from, of him just standing underneath the basket, pulling one or two defenders with him. And he's going to hustle because he's felt, just being on the bench for the past 2 or 3 months, the anxiety waiting to get into these games. He finally has his chance, and he did not take it for granted one bit.
And this is another thing with him too, and then we'll take a break and we'll get to our resolutions here. But just the last thing on him, I think this team sometimes is just missing someone that's intimidating. Nurkic is the only one, right? That's just kind of intimidating. As much as Devin Booker and Kevin Durant can be that, like, offensively, they're not like these big gigantic guys that are just kind of scary when you're dribbling into the paint. Yeah. Nurkic is. Eubanks isn't really like Chimezie Metu's not at all.
No, Chimezie's not.
And Azubuike, who's not like, he's not like 7'3" or anything, but he's just huge and kind of scary when he's in there because he's so strong. And I think adding just a little bit of intimidation into this team, that I don't want to call him like soft. I don't like to use adjectives like that, but it's nice to have someone that's kind of scary on your team.
Yeah, I mean, he's also like, if he has Eubanks' spot now, okay, that's great. But, knock on wood, Nurkic has been knocking on wood really loudly there. I don't know if it came up on my mic.
It did.
Okay, good. He's been healthy, which means Udoka can use all 6 of his fouls if he's only going to play 15 minutes, right? He can really take ownership of what was the Bismack Biyombo role last year, because it was the same system last year. DeAndre Ayton, that is, was not intimidating. Jock Landale was not intimidating. But then you had Bismack, who could come in and play that role. So if Udoka gets to do the same thing with maybe better touch at the free throw line, hopefully, we'll take it.
Yep, that's right. All right, let's take a break, and we're going to do some more talk about this team and how they've been playing lately by going through some of our New Year's resolutions. Sam and I just came up with 5 on our own, so we'll be right back, and we'll cover those. All right, with New Year's right around the corner, we decided to do something we've done a few times on this podcast, and that's New Year's resolutions for players, coaches, GM, whoever you want. Sam and I came up with some on our own, and we're just going to go back and forth and talk about these resolutions. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first, Sam?
I'll take it first, just because this flows from the conversation we were just having. It's just a continuation. Talking about the bench. And my first one is technically for Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel, your rotations are a mess, and it is not your fault. It is James Jones's fault largely. But given that, we need you to, going forward, just prioritize effort. The guys who give effort get the minutes. And so that's exactly what we were just talking about with Udoka. It's what we were talking about, I think, with Chimezie Metu, too. Chimezie Metu is also in many ways a raw product. He tries to perform dribble moves that he can't. He tries to perform passes out of the short roll that are bad ideas. He's not a perfect player as much as I like him, but he hustles. He gives good effort. He's athletic. He had 19 rebounds in what was otherwise a really hard game to watch against the Mavs. So, he should continue to play minutes. Udoka, running the floor hard, protecting the rim, being scary. He should continue to play minutes. The other guy I'm going to throw in there, Saben Lee.
Yeah.
Saben Lee. Here's a stat about Saben Lee. He has played a total of 40, I don't actually have the exact number, 40-something minutes this year. Not many. But the pace when Saben Lee plays is by far the best on the team. It's 104 possessions per, 104 possessions per your average game, which would tie technically with the Washington Wizards for the top pace in the NBA this season. Now, the Washington Wizards are not exactly the shining example of good offensive basketball, but just having a guy in there who can push the pace consistently, it's not something that Jordan Goodwin's going to do. It's not something that even Devin Booker's going to do. Yeah. Saben Lee has to come in and play that role sometimes where he just gets that downhill gravity. We know he loves to get to the free throw line. And, I think we should get an extended run now. Beal coming back might change things. Like if Beal comes back on Friday, I assume Saben doesn't get any minutes, unfortunately, just because of how, one of Grayson or Eric Gordon gets moved to the bench. But I don't know. Theoretically, I'd kind of like to see an extended run of Saben Lee being worked into the rotation, at least to give him 5 or 10 minutes. Let him continue to push the pace and see how that meshes with the rest of our bench.
Yeah, Saben Lee, he's doing what we want Jordan Goodwin to do in that Saben Lee's a good defender. Like he's an NBA level defender as it currently stands, and he's capable of being a defender. Maybe he's not quite Jordan Goodwin's level, Josh Okogie level, of course. But add to that he's capable of attacking a closeout and getting to the free throw line pretty regularly. That's a pretty good skill to have. And I think, the more he plays, the more chemistry they'll get with him because he's not a great shooter, but he can occasionally hit a 3-point shot as well. It's, like any of these defender guys. The thing is that he's a point guard. Like he's naturally a point guard. So if he has to create off the dribble, there's something there in that he can make the right pass or he can get to the free throw line. There's a play yesterday, I think, that comes to mind where I think it was Devin Booker or Kevin Durant was trapped at the right wing, and Chimezie Metu catches it in the short roll, and then they come off of Saben Lee in the corner, of course, to try to stop Metu from rolling to the rim. And then Saben Lee cuts, right? And Metu wasn't quite ready for that cut. He passed it to the corner, ended up being a turnover. You get a little bit more chemistry on that. That's just a lob to Saben Lee because he can get over the rim and he can dunk that. And it's just nice to have a guy who has the ability of doing some things with the ball that can also be a lob catcher occasionally. Or if he has to create in a pinch, he can do that. Or if Devin Booker's getting hounded every single time he tries to bring the ball up the court, you can give it to Saben Lee to bring it up, like you said, and get the pace up a little bit higher when he's on the floor. It just makes sense to have somebody like Saben Lee on the team right now. Whether or not he continues to get minutes, I think it largely depends on how well other guys play. Because if other guys just outplay him, obviously they'll be the ones to get minutes. But I think that it was the right time for Frank Vogel to try that. If you want to make the case that he should have tried it a little earlier, you could probably make that case. But somebody like Jordan Goodwin gives, it's smart to give him the opportunity in that stretch of games that I was talking about where the Suns were, 4-9. Jordan Goodwin was shooting 18% from 3 in that stretch. Like that 3-point shot, it's just completely left him.
Yeah.
So trying other things with other guys makes a lot of sense.
Was kind of the only thing separating him for a while from Josh Okogie, because we were saying, well, they could both defend, but if Jordan Goodwin can kind of hit the 3, then he gets to play over Okogie. Now neither of them can shoot. So you got to move on to the next guy in the rotation, and that is Saben Lee.
He's going to fight for minutes because he's not guaranteed them. In fact, he's only allowed to play a certain amount, and if he gets bumped up to the roster, he's going to make a lot more money. So they're going to try really hard to get those minutes. All right, here's my first one. This one's for Kevin Durant, who's largely played well all season, of course. And it is Kevin Durant, rebound like you're chasing a triple-double every night. Because Kevin Durant, I was pretty impressed with his rebounding in the Houston game. And I realized at a certain point when he got a rebound, and I was like, man, he really chased down that rebound. That was a great rebound. And then Eddie Johnson said, that's a triple-double for Kevin Durant. and I was like, oh.
That's why.
So like he was really locked in on getting rebounds because he had 9 plus 16 assists. And then he chased that 10th rebound in order to get a triple-double. If Kevin Durant is locked in on rebounds, which doesn't always work, of course. Sometimes you want him out on the run. Sometimes there's different strategies depending on the team. But if he's locked in on rebounds, he's got the length, he's got the IQ to get in there and get some for this team. And somebody like Nurkic, who's he's very good at boxing out, but isn't good at that sort of second jump. Somebody like KD in there helping him out to try to chase down those rebounds could make a big difference. So that's what I want out of Kevin Durant. Rebound like you're chasing a triple-double.
Yeah, we've got limited options for who's another guy who could play next to Nurkic and really help out with the defensive rebounding battle. It's basically only KD, or we see Chimezie Metu in that spot sometimes. But as we've talked about, none of these other guys who are, twos or threes that are kind of masquerading as a four are really capable of rebounding. Nazir Little's not that guy. Yuta's not that guy. Keita Bates-Diop is not that guy. So it's got to be KD. Good point.
All right, go ahead and do
Okay, next one for me. I'm calling this Save Me White Boy. It's the Grayson Allen New Year's resolution. And Grayson Allen, here's my resolution for you. We are near halfway through the season, which is crazy to say. Not really, but, we're getting there. And you are still shooting 46% from deep. So if you don't start launching that basketball every time it touches your fingertips, so help me God, Grayson Allen needs to be taking 7-8 threes a game if he's going to continue playing 30 minutes, which is probably not because Bradley Beal is coming back. But he needs to be sustaining a higher three-point attempt rate at whatever minutes level he's playing, because him and Eric Gordon are kind of the only guys keeping the Suns' entire three-point operation going right now. Eric Gordon certainly understands the assignment. He is launching, and he is also still shooting 40%. Grayson continues to be a little bit timid, and you could kind of see that confidence really finally click for him in the Dallas game, but we need it sustained. We need it to be every game. We need him to understand that he has the green light. Eddie Johnson was talking about this on the Houston game last night too. Grayson Allen, you have the green light. There are going to be many games where you could be the third scorer or even the second scorer for this team, outranking one of Booker or Durant, depending on who it is who's having a worse night. He could have 20, 25-point games for this team semi-regularly, but he just needs to launch. Maybe have some more plays run for him sometimes too. Like maybe, I don't know, experiment if he could be more of an off-screen shooter, but mostly just, it kind of has infected the entire team, the concept of good to great and turning down good looks to try and drive the ball for like a fourth or fifth time within a 24-second shot clock. And we see them just turn down good three-point opportunities and end up driving the ball and committing a turnover. Some of these guys just need to sit back on their hind legs and shoot the ball. I
have the exact same one.
Okay.
It's Eric Gordon. I put it for Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen. And I worded it as do not turn down a single three. Just none. Just shoot every single one when you're at the three-point line. If there's an inch of space, you should shoot it. And that should be what you want as a team for the Suns, is you want Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon on that scouting report for the next team. That they're going to, as soon as they touch it, they're going to launch it. Exactly. And I think for Grayson Allen, and he's done it a little bit in the last two games, and I think it's starting to click, and maybe this is... maybe we should thank Eric Gordon for this in some ways, for talking about the offense the way that he did. But in transition too, if you're dribbling in transition and they are backpedaling when you stop at the 3-point line, even if it's just an inch of space, shoot it. I don't care because if it misses, like if your 3-point percentage drops to 37 or something like that, but you're shooting 11 a game, fine. Fine, that's fine with me. Because all of a sudden, all that space will be back for Devin Booker. All that space will be back for Kevin Durant. And you'll be on that scouting report. People will be panicking when you touch the ball, and that panic is what creates offense for everyone else.
Grayson Allen is shooting 52% on pull-up threes this year. He's 11 for 21.
Yeah.
Shoot
him behind screens.
And you know
I
what?
Don't care.
We'll talk about Book later, because I know you have him in your resolutions too, or at least I think you did based on what you were saying. Mm-hmm. Book's not seeing that space when he comes around screens. I would like him to take more pull-up threes too, but oftentimes the space is not there for Book. So that means Grayson Allen, you are shooting a good percentage. Now it's your job. Someone needs to be taking that shot. I don't care if it's you. I think you're good at it. We don't care. Take that shot, please. Pick up the pace. Take threes. You're better than you think. And you're gonna have a lot of 20-plus point games in the second half of the season if you just follow this very simple advice.
Let me read the guys who came off the bench in the Houston game. Again, Metu, Okogie, Little, Lee, Azubuike.
5 non-shooters.
5 non-shooters. Those guys have to shoot. They have to shoot.
I want Metu to be a shooter.
Right?
A little bit.
Again,
he's shooting like 32%.
He's allowed to, I think is the way I should put it. Like we want him to take those shots occasionally when he gets them at the 3-point line, especially if they're just wide open and he catches it in rhythm. Just shoot it. But these other guys, take bad ones, I guess you can call them. I'd be fine with it. And look, if there's a point of the season where I say, okay, they're taking too much, I would like to get to that point, right? I don't want to be too far away from that with either of these guys. But I think you're right. Eric Gordon is more likely to do it than Grayson Allen at this point.
I want them both to have like a Buddy Hield mindset the rest of the season. Like take 12 a game for all I care.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care. There's no number that would be too much for me.
Okay. Devin Booker, since we brought him up, I just have 3 words for him. It just says speed up, dude. Play faster. That's really all I want from Devin Booker. I know there are things that have sort of he's not been great lately. He's been good. I think you could call him a good NBA player, but we know the standard to which Devin Booker has set for himself, right? This is a standard he has set for himself. We're not holding him to something that he's incapable of doing in the past as far as what he can do offensively. Scoring-wise, I think his three-point shot, I think he's shooting under 30% in that 4-9 stretch from the three-point line, and he's turning down a lot of open threes in that stretch. You can almost add him to that last resolution for Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon for me. But if I had to pinpoint one thing I want from him, it is everything you're doing, not just getting the ball beyond the half-court line, although that's the most frustrating thing, but everything you're doing, do it a little faster. Just that sort of care that it takes to not turn the ball over. I understand. Like, that's a big and important thing for them right now because turnovers was such a big deal early in the season. His
turnover rate is actually pretty good right now.
It has been good.
To that point, like, the Suns are losing games. Even as Booker's efficiency has dipped, I think in the month of December, he's averaging 8 assists to 3 turnovers per game. That's for a point guard who plays like 36 minutes a game. 3 turnovers, that's good. But to your point, a lot of the stuff could pick up.
Yeah, a lot of it. Getting it past the free throw line, step one, right? Do it faster. If that means somebody else is dribbling it up because they're guarding you full court, then yeah, but that's not always the case. Sometimes he's just walking it down. The offense is starting slower. There's another thing I think that happens with this team where the play involves something working off the ball, right? And that means Kevin Durant coming around a screen, trying to post up or coming off of like a cross screen, Iverson style, whatever you want to say. And Book picks up his dribble and waits for it to happen. To me, that's just slow as well, right? I think it makes sense, being that this is really the first year where he's playing point guard like full time, that there are times where maybe he doesn't immediately recognize how the opposite team is defending a specific action, and therefore he picks up his dribble a little bit too early, assuming somebody's going to be free. And those types of things do sort of clear up as these guys play together more. I think there was a stat I saw online today that Booker and Durant have only played 17 games together this season. Like those types of things will get better as the season rolls along. But there are times I think where the play is developing and I'm thinking, you're open, shoot, or you have the lane, drive, and he's waiting for somebody else to get free because he's taking those point guard duties very seriously.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to speeding up, it's almost like reminding him that he's still Devin Booker, and he still has to be Devin Booker pretty regularly. Maybe all that takes is Bradley Beal coming back and some of those responsibilities being taken away from him.
It's funny because I kind of have the same exact criticism of KD in some ways, not always about the speed, but just about the unselfishness, right? And, we sort of just said the same thing about Grayson too. It feels like it's infected the entire team, that they've internalized this idea of they have to make the extra pass, they have to be unselfish all the time. I think almost all of them, top to bottom, at least among the talented players, could stand to shoot just a little bit more. Just look for their own shot a little bit more than they currently are. And certainly that applies for Book too. I have one related to both KD and Book, as long as we're on the topic of them, which is just about we need their vocal leadership now more than ever. I wanted to bring this up because, a lot of people who I think were preying on the Suns' downfall posted that clip of Book. I wouldn't even say he was yelling, but just critiquing Chimezie in the Dallas game, was it? Because it was on national TV. Chimezie turns the ball over off a dribble handoff, doesn't get back on defense, and you can hear the mic very clearly pick up Devin saying, you're just gonna turn the ball over and not get back on defense, basically.
Yeah,
wasn't even yelling at Chimezie. I like it. I some people saw fault in that. I think those are just people who hate Devin Booker. We're just like looking for an excuse. Like, it's a play that normally isn't going to be picked up on the mic to the extent that it was. So like normally if you're fans, you don't hear that level of player chatter. But I liked it. And, you know, we need to, as long as it's coming from a place where both Book and KD are leading by example and their effort cannot be questioned on either ends of the court, we need their leadership. We need them to embrace, you know, occasionally maybe even chewing out some of their teammates if it's deserved. Like, now is not the time for introversion. Because classically speaking, I think these are two guys who are very much just about vibes. They're very much just about, we just want to hoop. We just play basketball. Yeah. Self-motivation. Like,
it takes a lot to do what they do, so it's hard to also get other people on the same page sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And look, getting into guys' faces and yelling at them is not going to motivate them in 2023. We've talked about that before too. Like, you shouldn't think you're Kobe all of a sudden or whatever and try to like intimidate your teammates. That's not going to work. But we need you to be vocal. Absolutely. We can't, as this team faces adversity, we can't have the worst case scenarios that those two guys just kind of retreat into themselves and stop communicating with their teammates.
I think
because that would mean that all hope is lost.
It's weird to me that bothered anyone. In a play that Devin Booker ran back, right? Devin Booker was back there trying to defend in that case. If what bothers you is that sometimes Devin Booker doesn't do that and sometimes Kevin Durant doesn't do that, like if they turn it over and sometimes they don't run back, that bothers me too. But also, Metu's playing 15 minutes a game?
Yeah.
Right? There's zero excuse for somebody like Metu. These guys are on the floor to play with high effort at all times. These guys need to be ones running back at all times. It's not to say that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant shouldn't. They also should. But the responsibility that they carry is so much higher than these guys that are role players. Those role players have to do the dirty work constantly because that's what they're there for. That's their jobs. They're supposed to be doing that.
Not only that, but if you're Metu or if you're, Udoka Azubuike or any of these guys, literally any of these guys other than the big three on this roster, if Devin Booker or Kevin Durant get in your face a little bit, it's because they're trying to get you a paycheck. That is what they are trying to do. If this becomes a team that makes a deep playoff run and you solidify yourself as one of the, 5th, 6th, 7th best player in that playoff rotation, you are looking at a payday where you could potentially get 10 times your salary next year. And the Suns won't be able to afford you anymore, but that's what happens to true contending teams. So it's like your responsibility. It's for your own good that you should hustle back on those plays.
If you're Chimezie Metu and you don't run back on turnovers, you don't have a job if you do that enough times because you're not good enough at the other things to stay in the NBA.
And to be clear, alone. For the most part, I think Chimezie does do it. I think he that was a brain fart.
It's just an example for him, right? Yeah. No one's immune from making mistakes, of course. No one is, but it's good. I agree it's good. And if you're a weirdo that was mad at Devin Booker for doing that, I think just think about it a little bit harder.
You're a weirdo. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's my next one. This one's for James Jones. It's just don't be a coward. Don't be, and this applies to a lot of things. You want to make a trade? Make that trade. Just do it.
Is that trade a Kevin Durant trade?
You want to cut
what type of trade are we talking about?
No, I think there are guys who are safe and there are guys who are not. And those guys who aren't safe, don't say, let's wait till the offseason. Like he's done that in the past. Don't do that now. Just do it. But if you want to cut Bol to give Udoka Azubuike a spot after, a 10-game stretch where he's good, do it. I don't care. Just do it. Don't be a coward in this scenario. Make that move in this offseason. I think there are minor things that need to be done. This team doesn't need to be blown up, right?
If you want to fire Frank Vogel and replace him with Isaiah Thomas, do it. No, I'm kidding. That one was a joke.
Yeah, there's obvious limits to this, but can I just bring up, this is a dream trade. I don't think it'll happen, but I just want to bring it up because I don't want Drew Eubanks on the team anymore.
Man, so, I didn't realize we were there. Does that mean
I don't want to give Frank Vogel the opportunity to try it again. I'm ready. I'm already ready.
You think there's no chance that he turns it around?
I was trying to. No, I think there could be a chance, but I don't know that this team is in the position to where like trying something is
might not be insulated enough against it. Yeah, that's fair.
Nasir, I was trying to think of a team that would have the minutes that are worthy for like to give Nasir Little a chance to like develop and become a player. And the team that I settled on, of course, was the Washington Wizards. I said Nasir Little and Drew Eubanks. I don't think that they'll do this, but I said Mike Muscala and Corey Kispert for those guys.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's just an example because Kispert and Muscala would both be good on the Suns.
That would be a lot of shooting suddenly injected.
Yeah, because Muscala would be, I think, this is the case where Azubuike, which I don't know if this will happen, becomes the second big on this team, like the guy off the bench. And then Muscala could be the third, right? This is, now you have somebody as an option that can shoot threes as a big, which the Suns don't have, I mean, you can say Nurkic, but the Suns don't really have a big who can shoot threes that gets minutes on this team right now. If you want to make the case for Bol, feel free. But and then of course, really Kispert's the guy that you would it would be the forward off the bench now, somebody who can like consistently play forward off the bench and a lot of shooting for the team.
Kispert would be what you were hoping Yuta was going to be.
Exactly, he's better. He's a better player than him.
Yeah,
just is and Kispert I think is still on his rookie deal. He has 2 years left, including this year. So he has a year after this, and then probably would be a restricted free agent after this year. So I'm not sure what the Washington Wizards are going to do with him. Maybe they want to keep him forever, but if they don't, and if they're thinking they can try to get somebody to put a little more time in that's on a longer deal, Nasir Little is that kind of player. So that's just something I threw out there. But James Jones, I just want to see something happen that could shake up this team a little bit. And there's just guys, like Azubuike is above Bol in the rotation. Why is Bol on the team? Just cut him. Get rid of him.
Because there might
get it.
There might be a master puppeteer pulling the strings in the shadows, someone lurking. But yeah, no, look, to be honest, I have the same exact resolution here. Just James Jones has to stay ready. Sadiq Bey is a guy you've mentioned in the past. I give you credit for that one. I think at some point we
stole
should probably
it from the Discord, so
we should.
You don't have to give me credit.
Thank you, Discord. We should probably just put together a short list of other guys that we think could be
we
in
got
that
2 months
salary range. Yeah.
Well, a month and a half.
Yeah, we have a month and a half.
Deadline.
Honestly, I think we're already there. That we could probably put together like a whole trade idea. I guess we shouldn't do a trade idea episode until closer to February, but we can start to think of some other names for sure.
Well, I did one. That may be the first fake trade I've done this season. So there you go. I stole one of yours with that one. Do you want me to go again, or do you have another one?
I just have one more. How many more do you have?
I have one more. Yeah, one more.
Okay. So, yeah, you go.
Okay. This one's for Frank Vogel. And, Frank Vogel can do a lot of things, but I'll give him credit for just how big of a shakeup that Houston game was bench-wise and how it worked. And we'll see if it continues to work, but I'll give him credit for that. And this is because Beal is coming back soon. And resolution is give Bradley Beal a chance by not saddling him with bad players when Devin Booker is out. And this is just, he hasn't played a ton of minutes, but like the bench
is horrendous.
It's horrendous, and it's because they're just playing him with the worst players on the team, and Bradley Beal's coming back, and all of a sudden he's expected to carry these guys that he's never played a minute with, and it's just been really bad. And I want to see Beal get a chance here, and I just feel bad for him that he's expected to do so much when Devin Booker's off the floor. So, when Devin Booker's off the floor, Bradley Beal is playing, maybe have Kevin Durant in there, for example, and have some minutes with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal playing together instead of Beal by himself. And this is just something I want because I look at the net rating stats and it's just, I know the context of it. It just makes me feel bad for Beal that it looks like that when I'm looking at it.
Yeah, you should give him probably 2 other shooters around him at all times, right? Because if Beal's starting, then again, we're assuming Eric Gordon probably is kicked to the bench, right? Grayson Allen's going to continue to start with them.
Yeah.
So if the default should be Beal gets Gordon and give him one other guy. So if that's Grayson Allen, maybe that's enough. But yeah, probably
Durant.
Devin Booker or Durant would be even better.
Yeah.
I have this resolution sort of in a similar vein as well, except it's not addressed to Frank Vogel. It's addressed to Suns fans. And that's just that Bradley Beal is coming back. We will look better when Bradley Beal is back. but it is not his responsibility to fix everything that's currently wrong with this team.
That's
so
exactly right.
Don't hold that against Bradley Beal. We have a turnover problem. I think Bradley Beal's going to make it better. It is not entirely on him to fix that. We have a pace problem. I think Beal's going to make it better. It is not entirely on Bradley Beal to jack up their pace to number one in the league. It is not entirely on Bradley Beal to, play a way that he's not comfortable with and start jacking up 15 threes a game, right? He's going to make us better. I think the fit will become apparent with time, but we need to give Bradley Beal time to adjust to the guys he's playing with.
I agree. You got any other ones?
That's my last one.
Okay, perfect. Those are our New Year's resolution. If you have any that you'd like to throw at us, feel free to do that. Twitter, Reddit, Discord, wherever you want to throw them at us. I'd love to hear them. And we'll take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll listen to some voicemails that we've gotten since our last episode. We'll be right back. All right, if you'd like to give us a call, 480-420-6553 is our number. Leave us a voicemail at that number. We'll try to get to as many as possible on every episode. And Sam, you ready to listen to some?
I am very excited. It's been a while.
All right, here we go.
What's up, guys? Lost Gamer always here. Just wondering how you guys are thinking about with Booker's threes. Is he being weird about threes this year? It sure seems like it. Let me know.
All right, Lost Gamer, I believe was his name. Lost Gamer always, maybe?
Lost Gamer always.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Is Devin Booker being weird about his threes this year?
It's a funny way to word it.
Yes.
Devin Booker's always being weird about threes.
This is a weird
every
year,
single
though.
season.
This is a weird, because here's why it's weird to me. In preseason, he was jacking up 10 threes per 36 minutes, and I was like, oh, here we go. This is going to be it. We're going to see the season where he's just launching pull-up threes in transition. We're going to see everything get going, and then Bradley Beal was out, and all of a sudden things started to change a little bit, and he started shooting less threes. The season starts. He's still shooting some, kind of around his regular mark. Last, 5-6 games, he's turning down wide open threes and driving into traffic. And, I think we're starting to see things change a little bit. I think his three-point shot numbers have gone down a little bit, and now he's in his head about his three-pointers lately.
Yeah, I mean, definitely he's in a cold spell right now. He's shooting like 32% this month from deep. So I'd have faith that that's going to go back up. I'm holding out hope that this is just related to Bradley Beal's injury. And in particular, Book expected so much of the Suns' driving to come from Bradley Beal that with Beal out of the rotation, he just feels that extra weight on his shoulders. And I'm hoping he's going to get some extra space soon. But yeah, he needs to lean into it. He needs to take pull-up threes off of your standard high screen pick and roll, off of dribble handoffs, in transition, basically wherever. I don't think it's a bad shot for him, so I want to lean into it as much as possible.
I think you could make the case that because of Bradley Beal being out, the transition to point guard for him has not been as smooth as we expected, in that sometimes he's overthinking things, and that's really all it is, and that is sometimes threes. I think that's mid-range shots for him too, where he's trying to find guys at the perimeter as well. And the last two games in particular, as bad as the Mavs game was result-wise, I think a lot of the decisions he was making with the ball started to make more sense. And maybe it'll start coming together a little bit more as Bradley Beal comes back. Hopefully Friday and soon. Here we go.
Hey, Mike, it's Sam. It's Max. I'm going to keep this short and simple. This one is really mostly for Mike. How do you stop believing in this team? Because somehow I still do. I'm calling after the Christmas loss, but I really just need to stop. Also, do y'all think we should fire Vogel? I mean, I honestly don't even think this is all his fault, but I just don't really know what else we can even do.
All right, so Max wants to stop believing in the Suns, Sam.
I like how he addressed that one to you, because presumably he had seen my freak
He's like,
out
yeah, Sam
Christmas.
already did, yeah.
I still kind of believe in them too. I want to say though, it's just you got to dust yourself off every day and just keep going. It's like anything else.
I think we talked to, maybe this was a Patreon episode we talked about it on, but I think that if you separate yourself from the weight of, can this team win a title, you'll probably have more fun. So if you're just saying
that is
like
certainly true. Yeah.
you know, like, because I do kind of, part of me is like, this team can't win a title if they're playing like this.
No,
And
they
if
can't.
and if I
Straight up
continue
can't.
if I continue thinking that, then it starts to get a little bit more fun. So if you're trying to adjust your expectations to make it more fun, that's probably the first thing I would do. Eliminate the idea of them as a legitimate title contender and maybe make them as more of a hopeful, like in that category, and maybe that'll help you out a little bit. But if you want to lose hope, you can, and if you want to express this kind of frustration after big losses like the Christmas Day game, I don't blame you. But I guess you already lost hope, Sam, according to him.
I mean, look, I think I'm in the same place as you, though. It's like, they have a shot at a championship. Of course they do, but they were supposed to be among the favorites, and right now you just can't call them that. There's no way. So, yeah, we're gonna, like I said, man, we're gonna keep doing this. We're gonna get up every day, brush your teeth, wash your face, watch the Suns. Whatever you got to do. So
I didn't get to watch the Houston game live. And I did relate to you because when I landed, I was on a flight for most of that game. When I landed and I looked at the score, I was just like, oh, thank God. Because I am going to watch it, but I don't have to go back and watch a brutal loss. I can go back and watch a win. But I related to what you have to go through at times, especially particularly when you had the job where you had to wake up really early in the morning and you would miss some of the late night games. And if you look at that late night game, you see the Suns lost by 5. That's just awful to have to watch that. But I'm going to say this. When I said on Twitter that I was going to miss the game live, some people asked if it was on purpose. And I'm going to say, I'll still watch them all. And if you don't want to, and you just want to listen to the podcast to get your updates on the team, I'll still do it. And Sam will still do it. We just watch them all. That's why you guys listen. So we're going to continue to do it.
You might have to strap me into a chair and tape my eyes open at a certain point.
Clockwork Orange style. Yeah. Okay.
Clockwork Orange. But yeah, I'm not going to watch all of them live, but most of them we're doing better.
Hey, so I'm just wondering what you think the contract extension for Udoka Azubuike is going to look like. He's playing like Shaq, so I think he deserves the maximum right away. But I'm wondering if you're thinking that's realistic or what. Thanks.
Azubuike has saved our season. It appears, right?
Yeah.
If this is where it starts, right now, and then they start playing well for the rest of the season, I'm going to give him credit for sure.
No, but seriously, dude, there's something infectious. First of all, thank you to this unnamed caller. There's something infectious about, I was mentioning earlier how the entire bench got up. It was the most excited they looked all season.
Yeah.
When they got to celebrate with that young man, there's something just about, now I sound like Eddie Johnson, but there's just something about having a 21, 22-year-old player to root for that we kind of haven't had a whole lot of throughout this entire James Jones era. And yeah, what's really cool about these two-way contracts when they actually do work out is that oftentimes you can get them on a really bargain deal. Like if you do end up signing them to a long-term deal,
yeah,
you can get them on the Lou Dort type contracts where it'll be we'll give you 1 or 2 years guaranteed, and then we'll keep a team option on you for another 1 or 2 years, and maybe it turns into a real steal for us. So
yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, the first step for him, if he continues playing like he is put him on the actual roster so you're not limited with the amount of games he's allowed to play because he's currently a 2-way, and you cut Bull and you get him out of there and you put him there. That's step 1. All right, here we go.
Hey, Mike and Sam. This is Hooper Fidel from the Discord. Thanks so much for all of the stuff you do in terms of Suns content. Love the Discord. It's a great place to just talk about the Suns. My question for you guys is Saddiq Bey related, as you can probably imagine. Just wanted to see if you guys could give me a little bit of an image of how he fits on the court with the Suns. I know we've talked about him a lot in the Discord as a possible trade target and kind of fits cap-wise and fits asset-wise, but just how does he fit basketball-wise? Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Hooper Fidel is his name on the Discord. And thanks for the nice compliment there. If you want to join our Discord, I know we talked about it, patreon.com/thetimeline is how you find it.
We did not pay Hooper Fidel to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the plug. He may have been the person that thought of the Saddiq Bey, actually.
It's possible.
Initially brought him up as a candidate because I didn't think he would be available. And then when I asked around, after seeing it on the Discord, it turns out that it seems like he is. How would he fit on the court? I'll let you go first on that one, Sam.
Yeah, I think, just his size, his ability to play up at the 4 position, but how does he fit like from an offensive spacing vantage point? He's kind of more of a Maury ball player, right? I guess maybe that's not like, I'm trying to think whose minutes would he be taking exactly? It's hard to Nazir Little
Nazir
or
Little, like
Okogie, like
Yuta, KBD, all those
Yuta,
like
KB.
forwards that you can kind of sometimes play. I think Sadiq Bey is just better than them, so he's
So he's kind of a better 3-point shooter than all of them, and that's not even to say that Sadiq Bey is a great 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
He's not, but if he shoots 35%, which he does, then he's better than all of them, and he's got more of like an effective, consistent ability. Maybe Nazir Little's a little bit kind of the same as a driver, but mostly Sadiq Bey, like straight line drives, he's more capable than any of those guys, I think.
It's possible he starts.
He's not creative. Like that's the thing. Sadiq Bey is not like an assist guy. He's not, gonna break down, attack a closeout and like, dump off to a center, like standing in the dunker spot, or like, pass out to shooters or whatever. But yeah, he's a classic 3-and-D player who can definitely finish at the rim, who can definitely hit threes at a reasonable rate. I'd take that over any of those guys that we're talking about.
He's big, he's strong, he runs in transition, and for better or for worse, he's probably guarding guys like LeBron James on the court, because the Suns just don't have a lot of bigger bodies that can do that. So if you're getting bullied, if you're getting beat up, you put Sadiq Bey on him. Sadiq Bey's not the greatest defender, but he's also not weak and not going to get completely bowled over or run over. So he can help you in that regard. I think it's a good fit for the Suns, and if they could do it with limited assets, obviously it's a home run. How available he is, like as to whether or not it would be possible to do it with limited assets, is a different question. But he's definitely someone that I'm going to keep my eye on and see if the Suns can make that deal. Here we go.
Hey guys, so take two. This is Robert Oshock from Lawrence, Kansas. Sounded like a complete crazy person on the last one. So anyways, over the years, we have purchased several jerseys for our kids. 2 Mikal jerseys, a Chris Paul jersey, even a Sticks jersey. Don't laugh. It was on a deep discount. And it seems like whenever we purchase a jersey, that player gets traded away from the Suns. So this year, our son got a Kevin Durant jersey for Christmas. And after last week, I started getting a little scared, feeling like, oh no, did I cause a Kevin Durant trade? Is he unhappy? Are we going to lose him? So, that being said, I wanted to know if you all have any superstitions when it comes to Suns, any kind of superstitions that you would share, no matter how silly they are, remote control needs to be in your lap, whatever, while watching the games, or just superstitions in general regarding the Suns. Thanks so much. Talk to you later. Bye.
This is a really fun question, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And Robert, just to explain the beginning, he had 2 voicemails, asked me to play the second one, so this is the second one here. I want to say just to mimic what he just said here, I got a Goran Dragic jersey for Christmas, and he was traded in February. After he was traded, I got no jerseys after that. I had Steve Nash jerseys; those were fine. I got no jerseys after that, and then I got a Chris Paul and Mikal Bridges jersey, both gifts that I received as gifts. And then Mikal Bridges was traded 2 months later. Chris Paul was traded a few months after that. I'm scared. I don't have a Devin Booker jersey. I'm scared to get one.
Neither do I.
I'm scared to get one
either.
I won't get a Devin Booker jersey almost for that reason alone, because I'm terrified that of something similar the way Robert is. But do you have any other superstitions?
Yeah, no, I totally feel you, dude. Like I tend to, when I go to Suns games, weirdly enough, I tend to wear a lot of like generic Suns stuff, but not player stuff.
Yeah.
Necessarily, kind of for the same reason. It's just the return on investment. Like a lot of the jerseys I've gotten over the past couple of years, it doesn't line up quite on that 2 month later timeline, but yeah, the Mikal jersey, can't wear that anymore. Maybe in Brooklyn next month we'll see the DeAndre Ayton jersey that I have. Like I just can't wear them.
Yeah.
I don't have any crazy superstitions related to the Suns. I would mostly just say that like sometimes people who are not Suns fans, or maybe just like casual NBA fans, will like want to watch a Suns game with me, like around here, right? So there aren't a lot of other Suns fans, and I think it's probably a really unsatisfying experience to watch a Suns game with me, because if the game is close in the fourth quarter, or even if the game's within like 10 points in the fourth quarter, like I'll stand the entire time. Just like everyone else will be hanging out in a living room, like on their couch, whatever. And then I'll just be like standing there menacingly over the TV, my arms crossed, just like not necessarily like yelling after everything, but just like standing there. And it's probably not fun. So sorry to anyone who I've watched a basketball game with, but I'll like watch any other basketball game is fine. Like I'll just hang out, sit on a couch like a normal person. But when it comes to the Suns, that's serious business. And I don't even think that's a superstition as much as it's just like kind of my anxiety manifesting itself. So
I think
I like to act like I'm a coach.
You know, six seasons into this podcast for us, I do feel like for me, it's more often the superstitions are now being applied to us. You know, like if they lose on playback, it's now our fault. Or if they win when I'm not watching, then I shouldn't watch every game. Or if I go to a game in person and they win big, then I should go to every game. You know, like people are saying that to us. That's the more what I feel now. Great question, Robert. Thanks for that. Last one. Here we go.
Hey, my name is Jordan. I'm a huge fan of you guys. I've been listening to you for years now. My question's a little bit like off the beaten path. It's not really Suns related, but you guys are like genuinely one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. And I'm thinking of starting up a podcast. It's not basketball related, but I wanted to know what would be like your top advice for doing a podcast, and maybe even like some stuff with what you guys use as far as mics and those kinds of things. Like I know that might be a little bit extended, but anything you could offer. Anyways, thanks. Hope we have a great season. Bye.
Thank you, Jordan. That's just really nice compliments for us. So I appreciate that. I have lots of thoughts on this. I guess I'll just say my two. I think
I was going to say, how much time do you have? Should we go for another 45 minutes on meta podcast analysis, or we could probably start with what we use. That's easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, we use like a Focusrite kit that you can buy for mics, but you can use, if you want USB mics, that's fine. You can find good ones for that. The real challenge, I think, the two biggest challenges to doing a podcast, I think, for most people, if you're trying to start one, is one, committing to doing it consistently. It's more than you think. You know, trying
Says
to
the guy who just wanted to spend Christmas with his family. Like an
it took 10 days off, right? But for 6 years now, we've probably done, if you include Patreon, 75 average probably podcasts a year, maybe more. You know, maybe.
And we do take the occasional week off, and we occasionally have vacations, but too many people make the mistake of they start a podcast and they think that like once every 2 months is going to cut it, and it's just not. So that is rule number one, is you have to be consistent if you want to build any type of
consistency is hard.
audience.
And then two, I'm very lucky. I found Sam. It's not normal, I think, to find somebody that is somebody that is, that obviously you have good chemistry with, that you're able to talk to weekly, but also is willing to do that as the consistency part as well. Like Sam and I are both crazy in some ways, and that means that we're both lucky to have found each other to be capable of doing this podcast together, because we're both willing to do this every week for the past 6 years. And, so finding the right person to do it with you, somebody that's willing to put the kind of commitment into it that you're willing to commit to, because you got to be even in that regard, and then doing it consistently, regularly. Because, and I know this is true for us, maybe it's not true for everyone, but you're going to get better at it. We weren't very good at first. And as time went on, the process became easier, recording, editing, posting. And then I think the conversations became a little clearer and better over time as well. So consistency matters, because it'll make you better at it. So that's my main advice, I think.
That is great advice. The only other thing I can think of maybe as like, because a lot of people have asked me this question too over the years. Mostly I just feel lucky. I'll return the favor to you. I feel lucky to have found you. And here's a little bit inside baseball. Mike handles all of our audio editing. I've never had to touch any of that stuff. So I'm very lucky that he puts in that extra work every week, because it is not work that I've had to do. And it is important work. You need to have someone who really cares about making the product good and sound good. The only other thing I would say, though, when you're starting a podcast, I do think it's important to like put a little bit of superficiality into it. And I guess what I mean by that is like I've seen too many people make the mistake where, maybe they start a podcast with their buds and they want to talk about sports or whatever it is, but like they are just like overwhelming the audience with like inside jokes from the beginning and things that like an audience isn't going to be able to necessarily connect with and understand. You need to kind of like keep your foot off the gas pedal with that stuff a little bit and organically build a connection with your audience. You know, like we're a Suns podcast, so we've always kind of taken the approach of we hop on the mics, we start talking, you know, like maybe we shoot the shit for like a minute or two, right? But then we get into business. We start talking about the Suns. And I think the people who want to know more about us will do things like join our Discord or listen to our Patreon episodes. We'll get, you know, follow us on social media. They'll get more into our personalities.
They'll listen to the answer to this question.
They'll listen to the answer
everyone
to this
else
question.
has turned it off. Yeah, exactly.
85% of people have already turned off this podcast because we're coming towards the end here, right? If you want to know more about who Mike and I are as people, if you honestly care, we'll give that to you. But that's a relationship, a parasocial relationship that you build with an audience over time. And you can't just assume that it's there from the outset. So you need to start every podcast kind of assuming that
with purpose.
There are people who are listening for the first time. And, you know, what they want to hear about is, in our case, Phoenix Suns basketball. In your case, it's whatever, music or cars or whatever your geopolitics, whatever your podcast is going to be about. But they need to be able to actually embrace the topic that you're speaking about with whatever level of expertise or passion you can provide.
The last thing I'll say, Jordan, is there's a lot of technical stuff I can give you advice on the programs that Sam and I use, the software that we use to communicate, how we post, how we host the podcast, all of that stuff I'm willing to help you out with as well. If you want to send me, if you have Twitter, send me a DM on Twitter. If you don't have any social media, first of all, you're smart. And that's the right way to go. Don't be afraid to just text this number and I'll try to help you out there as well. But yes, thank you for all the compliments. Thank you for being a listener for such a long time. And thank you to everyone who stuck around to listen to this part of the podcast. We appreciate all of you. And once again, I'll say playback Friday for the Charlotte game. I hope the Suns win that one. I hope Bradley Beal plays. It should be a fun one and we can all watch that one together. Also, just a reminder, ethicalhoops.com for merchandise, patreon.com/thetimeline for any Patreon stuff. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you had a great holiday season and have a great new year. We'll be back after the first of the year.